This is a low profile HP. I have no idea what model it is because I just got it from somewhere. But I assume most of its user base are people who don't want to upgrade, people who don't want to invest in any decisions, and most likely have never opened the inside. Well, if you aren't one of that people, but own this and want to have it be a little faster, this video is going to show you what happens when you put something called a graphics card in there. Well, originally I could have done this video with the RX 550, but I was too lazy to get the low profile bracket for this, or just remove the full size bracket on this, so I dug around my local micro center. Actually, I never even planned for this to be used in a properly low profile case, so here we are. The RTX 3050 6GB. Making another view after being dusted by my 7600 XT, who I'm currently daily driving right now. But enough about this poor bastard. Let's install it. Oh my god, it's not even facing the right way. Never mind, it was facing the right way. I was just stupid. Of course, it's not installed directly to the top slot, because, you know, OEM PC cooling. But you could install it if you were to find a way to squish this. But PCIe position doesn't matter, especially when your CPU bottleneck. This is like a 3rd gen i5, and I lost my 3rd gen i7, so we don't have any hyper-threading. In World of Warships, I've decided to play the CV. Yes, the most hated class of ship known to mankind. No, not Ryojo, but CVs, aircraft carriers. People hate them because they suddenly appear and you can't do anything to run away. You have to fight the aircraft, and if your ship is something like the Japanese, that you have piss poor anti-aircraft. But enough about this. This is not about World of Warships opinions. This is the HP something. I don't want to look up numbers. And our first issue is 3050 temperatures. You know, I was wondering why they didn't really do a no fan solution on the 3050. No, here's why. Because the 3050 is just producing that much power. 75 watts TDP doesn't sound bad, but it really is. But what doesn't really help is that if you've seen the setup I have in the HP is sucking in hot air from the CPU to cool itself. So, not much help there. But hey, our little i5 from yesteryear is struggling very badly. And mind you, this is Windows 11. So, it's already struggling. And yes, this could be solved with something known as the Penguin OS, known as Linux. But majority of you are too lazy to learn. So am I. So, go ahead, Linux users. Talk about how you use barely a gig of RAM and Windows users are stubborn. Dang. Well, that was lame. I just realized we're at like 80% CPU usage and we're barely drawing more than 40 watts. And nowadays, Intel CPUs will cook themselves alive and drink as many watts as they want. How we have not progressed in Intel CPUs. Meanwhile, lots of AMD CPUs will give you more performance for around the same wattage. like feed 65 watts to a 1600, decent performance. Feed the same amount of wattage for the 5600, even more. Meanwhile, the only way for Intel to progress is just cramming more cores and more watts. Hey, this is Future Philly, and after watching a David Does Tech Stuff video, I just realized actually the modern Core Ultra CPUs from Intel aren't all that bad. Of course, they're completely ass at gaming, but Adobe Premiere is okay, I guess. Wouldn't recommend them for gaming, but I guess if you already have one, you're fine. If you haven't known, that was only 8 gigabytes of RAM. So we could upgrade ourselves to a fresh 16 gigs of DDR3. And the fact I'm saying yeah, whatever. And the fact I'm saying DDR3 in this day and age means that I'm crazy. There we go. And I forgot to record, so wowie me. In World of Warships, again, with our upgraded memory, we see a negligible increase in FPS from 8 gigabytes to 16 gigabytes. But in day-to-day usage, you will definitely feel those extra gigs. And not to mention, if 16 gigabytes is becoming the new 8 gigabytes of this world, if you're still running 8 gigabytes of video RAM memory, but it's DDR4, I recommend upgrading. But if it's still DDR3, I'd recommend getting an entire new PC, because why are you still on that platform? In Team Fortress 2, because I don't feel like playing Forza Horizon to show, to show some, actually, I just don't feel like playing Forza Horizon 5 at all. But anyways, in Team Fortress 2, our CPU is not doing well. At 93% utilization, at least from what MSI Afterburner is telling me, we're getting some solid FPS, but Team Fortress 2 is not really a demanding game. It should not even be at this percentage. But then again, this is a dinosaur i5 with no hyper-threading, so I would not recommend. Oh, can't talk and play at the same time. But if you're getting a different CPU, like an i3 12th gen, actually, or 14th gen, somewhere in between, do not get the 3050. You get a Radeon like a normal person. I know lots of you have NVIDIA GPUs because it came with your pre-built, because you had recommendations for them, because you're a fanboy. I know that some people are definitely buying the 5060. Damn. I know some of you are buying the 5060, which is pretty bad. The only thing good is the 5060. 16 gig, the 8 gig just exists to make you buy the 16 gig. And don't even get me on the non-TI version. There is like no reason to get the non-TI version when you can get a used 4060, a used 3060, and unless you're doing like, I don't know, Adobe Premiere, just don't. So, I don't know what the hell just happened, but I think
I think the GPU sucked up so much heat that it crashed itself because the whole system crashed and it gave a few beeps, and then after unplugging the power, it's fixed itself. So I don't know. It might be a heat issue. It's quite obvious from the fact that there's not really much to suck in and not much really to blow out. Maybe if this was a smaller blower style GPU, we could have done something. But no! I don't understand why manufacturers manufacture low profile graphics cards with the dinkiest cooler known to mankind. Like, okay, this kind of format, it looks good, it looks cool, but in most scenarios, you're going to put it in a PC like this. And if it can't handle temps well in this form factor, then, oh my god, it's a lie then. Well, luckily, Sparkle makes some blower style Intel arcs, but you don't have, unless you want to get janky and download resizable bar, I don't see it as a viable option. So we're gonna repaste the CPU and see what that does to the GPU. Actually, that might actually make it get hotter, but who knows. So we're at the CPU repasting it. Normally you don't swap out the CPU in your system, but since I hold on, let focus on that lettering. Close enough. We're switching from an i5 3470 to an i7 3770. Why was that so hard to say? Oh, that never gets any easier. Alright. Making sure this cooler fit. And using some lovely thermal grizzly paste. Well, that defeats the whole point of the spreader. Well, that defeats the point of the spreader. Wow, what an obnoxious amount that obviously wasn't needed. Alright, if I can remember where my screwdriver was. Oh, here it is. And since my friend told me that screwdriving was boring, I'ma just cut it out.
No, this isn't my capture card being bad, or the fact my capture card was $40. This is Forza Horizon 5, lowest settings, DLSS quality. Now, looking back at my GTX 980 video, sure, it is slower. The 980? Actually, what am I even saying? The 980 is better. The 980 was running, I was pretty sure it was running medium settings, maybe even high, and it was doing pretty well. Low FPS, but definitely better than this. And despite the 980 only having, I don't know, 8 gigabytes of VRAM? No, that's the wrong 980. I mean, despite the 980 only having 4 gigabytes of VRAM, and it's still got some graphics card muscle in there. The 3050, by naming convention, should have been faster than the 2060, but even the 3050 8GB wasn't faster than it because of just a general lack of cores. I mean, maybe if it had like, I don't know, 100 to 10 more, we could have gotten there. But no, here we are, the 3050. And we could have gotten a 3050 Ti, and maybe that would have been its redemption. No, we got a 3056 gig, sawed off, slower, and all that. Final thoughts. I should really clean this up before saying final thoughts. Final thoughts. Well, I might have been too harsh on this little PC, especially when it came with an i5 and it was handling slow. But in the titles we ran, it wasn't very demanding. Although I did just want to do Team Fortress 2 gameplay because this Team Fortress 2 could run on this thing's iGPU. But enough about me liking Team Fortress 2. Let's talk about how DLSS handled on this. I know it was very low settings, but it did well. I was focusing on racing. I was actually getting some passes. I was crashing into people. Well, it was pretty good. But of course not every game is going to support DLSS. But every game that's demanding nowadays supports DLSS. Whether that be even Grand Theft Auto, Legacy, or the RTX edition. All that nice creamy stuff. Got nothing more to talk about. Leave a like if you liked it. Leave a dislike if you didn't. Leave a comment and make sure to subscribe because I am running out of motivation and money to do these videos.